Have you ever hit your goals and still felt exhausted, heavy, or behind? Today, we're talking about a different model, building a life and business that scales peace and purpose with flow, not force. Exactly what we've been talking about. Today's guest is Stacy Raske, a TEDx speaker, a 3-times author, Iraq War veteran, and founder of Influential. Stacy helps high-performing experts, authors, and speakers design businesses that scale with flow, not force. Her mission is to redefine success through alignment, automation, and energetic mastery, proving that freedom isn't found, it's built. Welcome to the Masters of Wellness podcast. My name is Ed Curtin. I've been in the health and wellness industry for 30 years. And Stacy, we've known each other for quite a few months because we talked about business going back to last year. I'm super excited about our episode today. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Ed. It's an honor to be here. It's been so fun. Every conversation I have with you, I have with Chuck, it just fills my cup. They've been so fun. And as I always say, 90 days is an entrepreneur year. So we've known each other for 2.5 years at this point.
That is so true. Yeah, things in an entrepreneur's world. Actually, we had an episode with a lady a few weeks ago, and she asked herself the question. She said, why would I want to be an entrepreneur? Why would I want to work 90-hour weeks and have no sleep and take all the responsibility on myself and have no money for the first months or even years? Why would someone do this to themselves? It's almost like self-abuse. But entrepreneurs do. And that's what the topic of our episode is, how to help navigate that roadmap so that you get to where you want to go as quickly as possible without having to suffer.
That's so true, because suffering is a choice. And that was definitely the one that I chose for a really long time. There were seasons in my life where I was able to live by my own rules and I really thrived. And then there were seasons, very long seasons, where I spent too much of my energy investing in who I thought I should be and always chasing validation and approval and enoughness from everyone and everything outside myself. And it ended up giving me very, very, very expensive lessons to the point of a rock bottom moment. But I'm grateful for all of it because I wouldn't be here doing what I do if it wasn't for this amazing journey. Yes, I'm an Iraq War veteran. Yet it's interesting how the hero's journey was actually catalyzed when I was 16. And my mom, after moving her and I from Chicago to Alaska, we were there for 3 years and she decided she wanted to move again. And I was like, I don't want to move again. We moved and moved and moved and moved a lot. And I was like, can I just finish school at the same school just for once? That'd be amazing. And she's like, okay, you can do that. You don't want to move. That's fine. I'm still leaving. So pretty much at 16, I'm homeless and I'm on my own and I'm couch surfing to finish high school, just staying with friends, crashing with friends. But what was beautiful in that gift is it was my first taste of living life on my own terms and not having to perform or prove to anyone. And it's really opened my eyes. And I started really living on my own terms for quite a while, all the way up through joining the military. I mean, I kind of deviated and did the should journey for a couple years of college, started to do the decline, like, no, this is not a good fit. And then when I went back to take the time off and I'm like, no, I need to get to know me. Then at 22, joined the military or in the army. I enlisted in the army and 9/11 happened as soon as I finished all my training. So, I mean, I'm immediately deployed because I'm cleaning up, I'm doing biological warfare detection. So we're really busy over the next few years. And I actually ended up getting hurt on my deployment to Iraq and was medically discharged just a hair over 3 years. And what was interesting during that time was, again, this was really living on my own terms, doing things my way against the grain, the Stacy rules for living, not who I think I should be based on any sort of programming or patterns or pressure. As soon as I got out, I went back to the should story. So went back to college, got my degree. I'm married, get the corporate job, buy the house. I start checking the boxes of the American dream. And the longer I'm living in that life, the worse and worse and worse I'm getting. My health is falling apart and my marriage is in shambles. And actually, I had gotten so sick that I lost my corporate career. And at my rock bottom moment, which was 11 years ago, I weighed 155 pounds more than I do now. So I've lost over half my body weight. But it was on all these medications, and I just stood in my kitchen after another fight with my husband. I'm walking with a cane. I had braces all over my body. And I just start grabbing the food and I'm just shoving it in my face right out of the cabinet. I'm just shoving it in, chasing it with a bottle of booze, bawling my eyes out. And I'm like, what the hell am I doing? And the voice says to me, well, honey, you're just trying to make yourself look as ugly on the outside as you feel on the inside because you hate yourself and you made this. And that was a whole lot of reality I was not prepared to swallow in that moment. I was like, okay, I'm done. It's time to check out. I have zero reason to stay here. And that was the moment that I truly decided to end my life. And I ended up passing out before my plan was perfect because I was so type A, so control freak. But when I woke up the next day, it was a very powerful lesson. Wow, I'm done trying to control anything other than myself because that's what I had just spent the last decade doing, trying to chase validation, approval, worrying about what everyone else thought and felt, and just everything that was outside of my control. And it came at the cost of myself. The one relationship I never knew I needed to have, didn't know how to make one with myself. So ultimately, what I've learned is that it wasn't about me actually wanting to end my life. I really didn't. What needed to happen was that identity needed to die. And she did. That's why when people see my before and after photos now, they're like, that's not you. Like, who's that? Like, it just does not register. It does not matter what I say. It does not register. That's how much of a shift there was. And just from that awareness, that first year, 10 months, the first 100 pounds melted off my body in 10 months, just because I focused on what I can control. And I really simplified it. I was like, okay, well, what am I putting in my body? Everybody's like, oh, did you exercise like crazy? I was like, no, my body just finally became safe because I was dealing with the emotional and spiritual burden. And then it just released the weight because it was safe. It wasn't trying to protect itself anymore. And then, needless to say, that same year, everybody's like, what are you doing? Teach me how to do it. Cause, you're sort of glowing and shining bright and massive transformation. So I started my first company. Got certified as a coach and started working with people and focusing on performance and mindset and identity work because that's what I did. And then over time, as I grew my business, I'm helping them with business. And then over time, I automate myself out of that business and start my second company, which is systems and automations, and hire my hubby to work with me. So there you go.
You tell that story with a smile on your face, but I definitely can feel the energy and emotion that is down below, that's being held down there. Perhaps that is really powerful. And as people have an opportunity to work with you and to know more about you, they're going to be able to learn more about that. You do have a TEDx talk, which is super popular, right? It is a dream for many entrepreneurs and business people and people that have got an interesting story to be able to stand on that red spot on the stage for a
Mm-hmm.
TEDx chat. Tell us how that eventuated and what was that experience like, and having to shrink your life experience down to 6 minutes. How do you do that?
Honestly, it's just like when you do your book. So it was the same lesson that I learned when I wrote my book in 2019 was it's not the only one. It's not going to be the only book you write. So you don't have to put every story and every lesson and everything. It's about what's the outcome you want for the reader or the experience for the reader and work backwards. So it was the same thing for the TED. And the TED was, okay, here's this next season and evolution of my business, my brand, my message, mission, and the movement that I'm building in the world, this momentum. Then what is the most strategic and logical starting point to that pathway? Because the TED is some of that authority positioning. So it is your signal to call in the right people. So for me, it's not the goal for the TED was not necessarily Brene Brown level virality. I anticipate that happening at some point. There'll be someone gets it and, goes crazy just because it'll be perfect timing. So I know that will happen at some point. However, there's a lot of other moving pieces within the vision I'm working towards that I'm creating, and that is just one of those catalyzation points, like publishing a book. So, but everybody's shocked when they're like, well, how did you get the TED? Because they expect, oh, I applied to a bazillion places and that I hustled my ass off to get it. And I'm like, no, my signal was clear. So I got invited. I earned it by invitation because I knew what I wanted. And I was very clear in sending that out to the universe that this is the opportunity I am ready to receive because I've done the work. And boom, if it wasn't super easy, that the invitation just showed up at the right time and I was ready.
People that listened to your your message on the TED Talk, what feedback or what messages did they reply back to you? What did they get out of it?
Yeah, no, I mean, when people catch it, it is mind blowing people go out of their way to post something on my social media somewhere or they'll comment on it. But especially when they go out of their way to not just leave a comment on the YouTube, but to go to my profile on some platform and post, I just saw your TED Talk, or they'll share it to my channel or my profile and just like leave this raving testimonial about their big takeaway, right? Like this whole mic drop moment. And I think, for every person, it lands different. But ultimately, I think it goes to kind of some of our interview conversation around how easy it is for all of us to should ourselves, right? Because it's stop shoulding on yourself and live from your genius, because we're so busy confusing effort with value that we don't realize that just being ourselves is the greatest gift that we can bring into the world. The genius is the stuff that doesn't feel like effort. It's effortless, but that's your greatest value in the world. And when you
Mm,
combine that genius and leverage that to be your monetization engine, your legacy engine, your impact in the world, that's the magic. But I think so many of us fall short and get stuck never moving above superpowers. And superpowers are awesome. They're really, really, really good. It's the stuff you're amazing at, but it drains you, where your genius energizes you. It's
mm.
very different
So
energy.
for a lot of high performers, including the story you shared earlier on, they look like they're winning on paper.
Mhm.
But what are some of the hidden costs for working at that level or pushing yourself to that level?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. There's always hidden costs if it's efforty.
Yeah.
Here's my word for today, the efforty. Hey Chuck.
Hi. See.
So what are some of the hidden costs that you see pop up from time to time or often when you're working with people?
Well, I mean, the easiest ones, right? Especially this is sneaky too when you get into entrepreneurship, especially because if you are doing stuff you love to do and you're skirting that line between superpowers and genius, there's this drive, especially considering 90% of entrepreneurs come from childhood adversity, 75% from big T trauma. So we are literally programmed from early in life to want to make the world better and help protect or fix or really save people from certain things. So inherently we're fixers and rescuers, so we're servant leaders, which means it's easy to overgive, overdo, push too hard. And anytime there's that lack of harmony, because I think balance is total bullshit, it's an equation you will never solve for. So when you're attempting to harmonize everything, if that gets disrupted because we're doing too much of the work lane and not enough rest and recovery, the consequence, high stress level. So we're constantly in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, which creates a cascade of poor decision making and control issues. And then you're not eating well and you're not sleeping well. And then, oh, are you not taking breaks to go exercise or nurture your relationships or go outside? Right. It just kind of creates that spiral. And so it's easy to just hyper focus in a state of action and doing and forget about the fact that we're here for being. Because again, a lot of that doing is, hey, I will hustle like crazy to prove my worth and deservability. Because, we can all perform. But what happens when you stop performing? And I see too often people's businesses, the second that they stop being visible, their business stops growing, which means you don't have a brand, you have a performance.
One of the clients I worked with last year was exactly in that situation where he felt as if he had to be present every day to lead by example. He needed to be the earliest arriving person, the latest leaving person, the hardest working person, the lunch sacrificing person, because he believed if he did that, other people would be inspired by that, which they weren't. The first thing I did is I said, take a week away from your business and let's see what happens. And that was the hardest thing for him to do, but he learned a lot. And there were people that stepped up, there were people that stepped down, but he had a very clear picture when he came back about where he can go from there. So sometimes you need to shake it up or do something shocking to fast track and find out, okay, where do we need to work on? So we've got some real high performers or some great people here that are really willing to pick up the slack when required. I'm going to put them in trusted leadership positions. And then there's others that kind of slack off and go the other way, and you know what to do with them.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it is. It's huge. I think, it kind of goes back to that self-sacrifice thing, right? It's if I struggle, if I suffer, if I work harder, again, to prove my worth and deservability while being the one always jumping in to rescue everybody and enable rather than have boundaries and be a leader. And that's the hardest shift. That's the hardest shift, to go from being a business owner to actually being an entrepreneur, from being a solo working and doing everything to being a leader.
Yeah. Chuck and I started this podcast on this premise at the beginning more than a year ago. Was all about having the weight of the world on our shoulders. And Chuck in particular, as you know, he's got a very interesting story that led to a point of health issues. And then when he traced it back, looked at all of the things that he'd been doing and going through in his life, eventually something's going to break, right? We are humans. We're not like we're not like superhero. Everyone has a breaking point. And Chuck, that's what we've kind of been talking about here. Do you want to just sort of reflect on how that resonates with you from our early days of starting the podcast?
Yeah, for sure. Everything you're saying, Stacy, is resonating with me. I was the prototypical person that was taking care of everybody else. Let's just say taking care of everything else but myself. And it was interesting because I still sort of I remember that guy, and I remember the excuses that I would give myself as to why I just didn't, the gym's not going to happen today. The gym's not going to happen today. The gym's not going to happen today. And weeks and weeks and weeks would go by, if not months, and the gym never happened because my long to-do list was more important, trying to crack the, especially if business, for whatever business that someone's in isn't going well, because you're still trying to figure out what's the solve. And then that stress level is debilitating. And, when you fast forward to what I know now is that it would have helped to move. It would have helped to release that energy and not just keep it still. And, it's not that I didn't exercise. It certainly was that it wasn't consistent enough for it to help with my health that ended up catching up to me. But it was also mostly the way I was dealing with the stresses of not being able to solve a problem. And a couple of that on top of, I think, also being a male, not being able to solve a problem is a big deal. Yeah. So it was a blessing in disguise to find out and to discover that I had cancer, because it forced me to put myself first. And at the end of the day, if I'm not here, then nothing else that I need to get done is important.
It is so interesting how we have to hit up against
I know.
those really, really, really big walls or rock bottoms or to do the shake up to break the cycle. It's so wild. And I mean, we all share our stories in hopes of helping inspire someone. And yet at the same time, I watch people and I'm like, they got to hit their bottom. Like it's a wild thing.
Yeah. You don't necessarily know until you know. Like if you're living that
Yeah.
experience, I look back and I'm like, I know I should probably stop eating gluten. I don't know. I'm pretty sure that I had like a million different signs. I'm not saying that that's obviously what led to the big C, but it was a contributing factor in inflammation, and we all know what happens with inflammation. But I had a million signs and it was like, no, it's too hard. I don't want to give it up. Same thing with dairy.
Well, it was wild too because it's like it's the self-soothing, right? It's the stress kicks in and that fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, right? That dysregulated nervous system is triggering this response. And the more dysregulated we are, the more it's trying to get back into homeostasis. And it's interesting how a lot of that dealing with stress is self-soothing in the moment, which could be, again, the numbing out or the self-soothing with food or alcohol or drugs or social media or games or whatever, right? It was even at my worst self-harm, eating disorders and different things. And all it was to change how I was feeling in the moment, right? Because had no skills to navigate the stress cycle of, again, chasing this constant improving and suffer and struggle and sacrifice. And all I was running from was the one relationship I didn't have, and it was myself.
The growth band-aid is what I call it.
Ooh, nice.
It happened this week, and I'm not going to necessarily share what it was because that's too personal, but I had a flashback moment of like, this is when I would have normally just stopped. Stress level of that scenario was at the ceiling, and I would have stopped and then just said, you know what? I can't, this is just, I got to do so. I'm going to watch TV. I can't let me not think about this. And that's literally just a growth band-aid. So I said, no, I'm going to grow through this. Let me go through all the teachings that I've been learning, and how am I going to apply this? Because I need to move. I need to do action. I need to move through this. And it completely changed the trajectory of the whole day. It was actually yesterday. And that day ended up starting off very, how should I familiar. Because the years before, the stress level, I was like deja vu all over again. But it was interesting when you grow, and how I've grown to where I am today, to be able to identify that and say, that's okay. That's who I used to be. That's not who I am anymore. And who I used to be would go put on Netflix for a few hours, if not the rest of the day, and have a growth band-aid. But that's not me anymore. I'm moving forward. And I had a very productive rest of the day. Matter of fact, I was up until 12 o'clock. Again, not the greatest, you still need sleep. I get that. Not going to happen consistently, but I was in the zone and I was feeling good. So I wanted to keep going.
Right. Well, and I think the bigger thing is the awareness of it's a choice, because sometimes it's hitting the wall of like, nope, I'm not going to keep pushing against the problem. It's about completely disengaging and doing something else. And sometimes that might be the Netflix and chill with the, ice cream or whatever. But if you're doing it from a place of very conscious choice of like, no, this is not working and constructive, so I'm choosing to disengage and do something else. So I'll go paint, or like for me, Saturday morning was my second week in a row with my trainer. And I was not out from the door to the car. My car was parked right in front of the studio. And by the time I got to the car, I was so inspired. I started word vomiting into my AI on the phone, and the most amazing insight came, and I solved the problem for the exit strategy for my business. Like, it was like, oh, there it is. There's the one piece to where I completely removed myself from the entire
Yeah.
process and just solved it. And it was because I was not focused on it.
Yeah.
I just had the most amazing workout, and I like get to the car and just bam, there it is.
It's interesting. I was actually just thinking about that today, that, you think you probably have already read the book Atomic Habits. Love the book. Read it a few years ago, put it at the top of my list of like one of the best books, my most favorite books, most impactful books. And then just the stacking of habits, and you're constantly working on stacking habits. If you've read that book and you like it, you're like, all right, how do I do more of that? So when I brush my teeth, I'm also going to stretch, which I do. So I know it sounds weird, but I do stretch while I'm brushing my teeth. So today it dawned on me that I'm actually really productive work-wise when I'm working out, especially if you start lifting heavy, which I've gotten really into. You need to actually take a 2 to 3 minute break in between sets, which is hard for me to do because I'm ready to just get it going. So I'm busting out a bunch of ideas. I'm growing, thought processes and strategies, and catching up with people who I need to catch up with. I left the gym today and I'm like, man, I got a workout in, and I would just knocked out like 10, 15 really productive things to do. So you can do both. It doesn't need to be one or the other. But it's funny how your mind plays these tricks. Like, oh, no, I can't really work out right now. I got work to do. Do you do both?
There is a way to help your mind adapt and improve on this particular skill set by doing things physically, multitasking at the same time. So a really simple example, as Chuck said, while you're brushing your teeth, doing a stretch, you can also be brushing your teeth with your right hand and using a comb to comb your hair with your left hand. So you're actually using your left and right hands at the same time. And that it's amazing what that does for your mind. It's like, okay, because we can only hold one conscious thought at the forefront at any one time, right? So as you're brushing, this is what will happen. You'll be brushing your teeth and doing your hair,
Yeah.
and then you find I'm thinking about my hair, and I've been brushing this side of my mouth for like 3 minutes, right? So then you need to bring your focus back to the teeth again. Okay, so changing over here, and it's hard, but if you practice it, it's really amazing how you can start to improve your skills like that. Another example, in the kitchen where I am here, I've got the cooktop here, the gas cooktop, and then there's the sink very close beside it. So I practice things like where I might be stirring the scrambled eggs here, and at the same time rinsing a glass in the sink at the same time. Because normally you do this and then you do that, which is going to take 1 minute here, 1 minute here. But now doing them at the same time, it's going to take 1 minute to do both. So it's amazing how much more you can accomplish. But it's not really about accomplishing those tasks. It's about just stretching your ability, your mind, and your physicalness as well.
Well, if you really want to have some fun and in the lane of bilateral stimulation that we're talking about here,
That's the word.
if we want to break out the nerdy here, is if you've ever tried to do the thumb in, hand up, thumb out, hand closed, and then
Yeah.
At the same time.
at
Yeah.
the same time, it's true bilateral stimulation because it's so hard. But
We
you
we
can
all
see that
we always
I've
get
done it a long time, so I'm able to just do it. But the key is being able to do it when you're not looking. So like
right.
obviously I'm sitting here staring, so it's a cheat. But you want to be able to do it while you're not looking. So,
Mm. Yeah, they're small little tools, but it's amazing the cascading effect it can have on you, because now you've opened up neural pathways that were not there before. Because as humans, we tend to be lazy. What's the least amount of effort I can do to get a result? That's the way most people think. But actually, you can use the same amount of effort and get more results if you apply it in a different way.
Well, and what's interesting is how much energy people waste with all of this poor use of bandwidth. So I'm always talking about it as like energy leaks on the front end create profit leaks on the back end. So if we're talking about physical bank, your physical energy bank, well, if the energy leak on the front end is you didn't go work out, or maybe you ate the entire Ben and Jerry's ice cream, the profit leak on the back end is going to be maybe the size of your pants or the scale.
Literally on the back end.
On the back end, exactly. From that like spiritual, emotional, mental space, if there's leaks there because you're trying to, spread yourself too thin, or you're very inefficient with your focus, or you're doing all of these repetitive manual tasks that are exhausting rather than automating, all of those pieces become these energy leaks that compound into massive profit leaks on the back end. I mean, even our relationships, right? There's relational banks, environmental, social or professional, and then financial, and people just think about, the financial leaks on the front end turn into profit leaks on the back end, but you're doing the same every time you don't hold to your schedule. There's a time leak. Every time you don't follow through with something, every time that you get unfocused and lose track and don't finish something, right? There's all of these tiny little energy leaks draining your bandwidth. And if you equate that to some type of monetary value or actual tangible value, it really shifts the relationship with how you're optimizing those energy banks. What are you depositing? What are you withdrawing every day? And how is it compounding to what you want or what you don't want? Is it an
I saw
asset
something,
or is it a debt?
yeah, just to segue into your book, there's something very interesting I saw called the energetics of success, balancing masculine and feminine energies. Some listeners will be curious, what does that mean? Let's make it practical. In Stacy's book, when we say masculine energy, she's talking about structure, action, protection, execution. And when talking about feminine energy, things like intuition, creativity, receiving, and connection. So the goal isn't one or the other, it's about integration. Now, Stacy, in your experience, what are some of the signs when someone is over indexing on masculine or feminine energy?
Yeah. Ooh, we see it all the time. I think we just talked a lot about it when we are too busy being a human doing and not a human being, right?
Mm.
Because it's that action, it's the doing. But it's really, if you think about sort of the infinite loop, right? If it's the infinite loop, it's always trying to be in that harmonizing space of the empowered versions. And functionally, the masculine energy is there to provide structure, safety, and containment. So if you think about it in the sense of like your creativity, your authenticity, that only flows, right? This beautiful river of awesomeness of who you are flows when there's the right containment. So it's like banks on the river. If there's no banks, we just go "Hua," and we see it all the time. The people who's just there's not a lot of intention or direction to what they're doing. They just kind of ooze everywhere. And you can then have too much containment and too much structure. And then, right, that's where we really end up losing ourselves because we're never giving space to who we're being. Because, I mean, at least for me, I was avoiding all of that. I was avoiding myself. I didn't like who I was. So it was a lot easier
Mm.
to focus on chasing things through performance and productivity, especially in a world that really everything celebrates performance and rewards that, not as much the being side of things. So it's finding a way to harmonize that. And that's really been ultimately, as I've discovered in my own healing journey and entrepreneur journey, that is my genius, that gift of that I can bring to the world is what is the thing that's most uniquely, authentically me, and how can I share that at scale and help others do the same? Right. And that's the magic. And it's always this beautiful dance between masculine and feminine and infusing it into everything that we do. So I bring this a lot into business because it's a dance. It really is. Like sales, You know, the smarmy sales guy chasing you, he's in masculine energy. So you're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, no, right? So it pushes the buyer into feminine. But ultimately, when it comes to sales, if you want them to take action, which is masculine energy, you have to step into feminine and make it about being an invitation into an opportunity or an invitation into what it is that they are buying into, their vision, whether it's a car or it's a program or it's a service. It doesn't matter what it is, but that's what they have to connect to lean in and take action. That's why 2 years ago, I stopped shooting myself in my business. All the stuff everyone says to do, the social media posting, the email your list, and most importantly, sales. I stopped all of it 2 years ago completely. People were like, what? How are you still in business? I'm like, yeah, my business actually blew up in a really, really amazing way. It like 10x because instead of trying to chase a sale, I focused on developing relationships. I focused on being of service and simply connecting and solving a problem. The more I could be in my genius to see, okay, well, what are they sharing? Cool. Here's the pattern I see. Here's some value. If that's supportive, awesome. And because I would lean back, they'd be like, this is the most valuable conversation I've ever had about this exact thing. How do I work with you? Totally different. That's leveraging the energetics of success, is really understanding the dance. On stage, this is a biggie. There's a lot of people that bring a ton of energy onto the big stages and they're just all this energy dump. It's actually a lot of feminine. There's a lot of energy and a lot of emotion, but they don't always know how to hold space for the room. Are they able to provide safety and containment? I am not a rah-rah speaker, but I'm definitely one who makes people feel very uncomfortable with the raw truths. And it's amazing how many people in one conversation, first time they meet me, they cry. Everybody's like, you make people cry. I'm like, no, I don't. I simply hold safe space for them to feel the stuff they've been avoiding. That's it. But that's because I've learned how to heal and balance my masculine energy because I had none in terms of safety. I had no boundaries. I had no stability. So, my solution, and this is what a lot of entrepreneurs do, the solution to unstructured, unhealthy masculine is the opposite, which is control issues. Yeah. Competition, aggression, right? Like, oh, no, I will outwork you. Uh huh. Oh yeah, no, nobody's gonna hustle harder, right? Like I'm gonna do more, right? To prove. And then the opposite happens where the unhealthy feminine comes out, where we see the big breakdowns and the big blow ups, the manipulation versus, a lot of that victim energy. And everybody has it. Like it has nothing to do with biology or gender or, but it's all just energetics. But when you really start leveraging that in how you message and how you interact and who you're being, everything changes. And it just blows people's minds when they can be around someone who has very balanced energy. And it's why a lot of people will gravitate to me. And then the people I gravitate to as well also have very, very balanced energy. And it's just so nice.
Stacy, for you, what was your rock bottom moment and what did you do to get into this? Let's call it like what most people are probably thinking about right now. I mean, if you didn't explain it in such an elegant way, the best masculine and feminine explanation I've ever heard.
Oh, thanks. It's so non-woo, right? Like I'm like, no, I don't do the woo language. I'm a scientist. I'm a recovering
Yeah.
chemist. I'm like I'm a war veteran. Like, no, this is would be non-woo. Like I can be fluffy with
But
it, but
Stacy at some point was reading that and thinking, this shit's woo. And you and your scientific mind, you consumed it differently and it clearly changed you. So can you walk us through what that experience was? And was it a person? Was it a book? Like where did you eventually go down? How did you get down this path?
Yeah. So, it's funny because it's actually, I was always highly gifted with the spiritual gift, like all of those spiritual gifts as a child. And then at some point, everything turned off for a point of, from my understanding now, for safety, because I was in such unsafe places and unsafe environments. That kind of spiritual gifts part of myself just kind of shut down. And so there was a bit of that searching that I think led to some of that chasing performing behavior, always filling that wound and that void that was missing, especially growing up in an environment that was, very emotionally unavailable family. So, I'm just like, how am I so feely and woo and not around people who get me? I was so alone on this weird island of life for so long. And so I learned quickly to overcompensate through the masculine energy, the performance. So it was the grades and the athletics and the hobbies. And it was excelling at everything. It didn't matter if it's art and painting and drawing and or playing an instrument or a sport or school. It didn't matter. I am going to do my best to perform as high as I can. And ultimately that performance turned out to be that running from that part of myself. So it was always there. It was this after the rock bottom moment, this has been a shedding of the shoulds, the shoulding, a shedding of the shoulding. But in allowing that identity to die, the mask that I was wearing of who I thought I should be, to get back to who I truly am and really have always been. That's where it's been this journey of sort of like, oh, there I am. Right. And it's not one or the other, it's just connecting to the whole me. And so it's been really fun getting to a place of discovering those parts of myself, having the woo conversations, right? To say, you know what, like, oh my gosh, I can nurture the most crazy woo conversations all the way to the full hardcore quantum physics and the science, and recognize like it's not two ends of the same spectrum. They're literally the same points on the circle because it's all the same language. And I'm just like, oh, that's wild. Right. So it's just this getting back to self and this really interesting and balanced way of, you know, whole, just feeling whole, more me. And it's still a journey. Like I am like not perfect at all. My husband will be like, have you drank anything today? And he's bringing me something to drink. Like, did you take a break? Did you eat yet? It's just get into the zone as we do. But I think it's such a different energy to it, right? There's no judgments around things anymore. It's just,
Easy on
it
yourself.
just is. Like, I think that's the prison that we give ourselves, is just when we're constantly making a story about the experience of life. That's the pain. It's not the experience of life and what happens in any moment. Sometimes I lose my shit. It happens. Like triggers happen. Like we make mistakes. We have bad days. The day you just described from yesterday was me on Wednesday last week. That was my day. And I just was like winning because I hit my breaking point and I communicated it to people. He said, I have nothing else. I don't know what else you want from me. Whatever answer I gave you, that's it, because I have nothing else to give. So I'm done. But that was a completely new state of being to get to the point where I could at least communicate that I'm done. Because in the past, I would have either had a complete and utter meltdown or I just would have dug my heels in and pushed harder. So it's just, there's no greater prison than the one we make for ourselves. And so you can
Well,
just
yeah.
choose to be free.
Stacy, about 5 years ago, I had a trauma experience living in China related to work visa or residence visa. I travel to Shanghai every year to do this process. And for various reasons at that time, partly to do with COVID, partly to do with an expired passport, partly to do with I did not answer a phone call that was made to me from an immigration officer. It reached a point where my visa was cancelled. I had 30 days to leave the country. And once you get deported from China, you're not allowed to return for 5 years. Like, this is the situation I was facing. I just met my wife Livia, who's my wife now. I just met her a few months before that. So I met this love of my life, and now I was facing being deported out of the country. So that immigration office in Shanghai, it holds a trauma experience for me. And I find every year that I go back, so that was 5 years ago, year after year, as I just approach walking towards that building, there's an anxiety and sweating that comes over me, even though now it's fine. Like I've got the processes, everything's handled. But it kind of reminds me of, remember back before the smartphones, there was the analog phones. And when you put them next to a speaker, put them next to a Bluetooth speaker, there's like
Yeah.
this kind of sound when you put it close to the speaker. So it's kind of like that. Every time I go close to that building, there's like a zzz, like this anxiety building. And yesterday I did something different. Was I could feel myself sweating as I was getting close to the building, but there's a little ice cream shop close by, like just down on the street. So I went and bought myself an ice cream first before I went into the appointment. And I was trying to kind of change my experience that, oh, now I'm enjoying a delicious gelato ice cream, and this is really, really good. And now I'm going to go into the building. So I didn't fully resolve the issues I have with the anxiety, but it definitely kind of helped to change my mindset just by doing something a little bit different. Can you
Yeah, you did a
explain,
great pattern interrupt, right?
okay, can you explain a little bit more about that? Because I definitely felt that there was some benefit to it, but I'm not exactly sure the science or how can I make
Yeah.
that happen so that it really solves the problem next time I go up there?
Well, I mean, it's, all of the teachers, all the great teachers, they always talk about the pattern interrupt, right? Whether it's the therapists, the mindset people, all the gurus, there's always something where it's we get so patterned into our behavior, right? If you think about neural pathways, the more we do a repetitive task, the more it becomes a super highway. And when we start to change, it's like going off onto walking in the woods on a path that maybe there's no path the first time you do it. And then you do it a second time, and it's like turning the path slowly into the little dirt path, still tiny. But, every time you walk it, it requires less and less and less effort. But there's always got to be something to break the pattern, at least the first time, because again, we're in the loops. I mean, think about how many times we drive and we're like, wait, I don't even remember driving, right? We just get so habitual because again, our reticular activating system's designed to filter things out. So all you have to have is that one time set in your nervous system, because it's not conscious stuff. Your nervous system is saying, whoa, we had a life or death situation here. So this building is not safe. And the body, if you've ever read the book, the body keeps the score. It legitimately keeps the score. It has an imprinted memory, and we store trauma in our body. And so you were aware enough and present enough to say, okay, I don't want to be trapped in this loop. I don't want to be a victim or prisoner to this pattern. So you chose a pattern interrupt. Some people will have like just a little rubber band that they'll snap on something if they start a behavior, right? I mean, it's how people stop biting nails, it's how they stop smoking cigarettes. There's always a pre-patterned condition that gets kind of anchored in that creates a habit loop as to whether we go to the gym or we don't, as to whether, we brush our teeth at a certain time or we go to bed at a certain time. I mean, it's just all the things that we do. And so if there's certain behaviors that we have that are undesired or things we want to change, we have to choose a pattern interrupt. And then what's the alternate positive behavior we're replacing it with? When I decided I was no longer a smoker, like 15 years ago, after smoking for 20 years, I was just like, nah, I'm just gross. I'm done. It's fine. I'm just over it. And it wasn't a matter of what am I quitting? I'm just like, no, I'm just choosing something else. It was when I decided for like 2 years, I was completely plant-based. And I just said, no, I'm taking a break from meat for a while. There was no pressure to it. It was like, no, I'm just focusing on these other things. It was just, what are you choosing to focus on? You chose to focus on feeling something better. That's pretty cool.
And one thing I did notice, like after I had the gelato. Everyone feels happy after eating a gelato. So when I went to the counter, and then you're facing the police officer at the office, I remember previously I always had that anxiety feeling, and people can feel that energy. And then it's kind of like the customs officer at the airport. You're like, this guy's sweating. What's going on? Let's check his bag, right? That's kind of the feeling. And that's the energy I was giving off before. And it always seemed to take a long time. And then like checking documents are on the computer. I'm like, oh my God, why is it taking so long? And they can see and feel that. But yesterday I was super happy. I'm like, hey, good morning. How are you? And I just had an ice cream. And so they're like, oh, yeah, good, happy. And so not many people are super friendly to these police officers. It's like a government sort of office job. So that guy was pleasantly surprised. And then he was kind of responding in the same way. And the whole thing was very fast and efficient and friendly. And he's like, okay, so 14 days, it all should be done, and keep your phone open in case we need to call you about anything. And it was kind of positive. I said, oh, thank you very much. And then I left. So when I left yesterday, it definitely felt like totally different. And I guess if I trace it back, it was making the decision I'm going to interrupt the thought pattern, and then doing the thing that does that, and then your energy changes. And it is incredible how the energy you're giving off is mirrored by other people. Like, that is unbelievable. If you're having a crappy day, or you're tired and you've got like, your face is showing that, people are like, God, I don't want to talk to this guy. But the other is also true. Chuck is super cool because when he came to China, oh my goodness, like you can see he's got a resting happy face, right? So Chuck's smile is always up. He's got like that lovely energy. And he's meeting children, he's meeting family members, he's meeting strangers in the village that he's never met before, but he's got that energy about him, and everyone's just like, this guy is awesome. Oh, we love American. Now everyone in this village loves Americans, right? Because of
Nice.
their representation.
They met a good one.
Yeah, they met a good one.
But see, you chose the outcome you wanted. You chose the energy and you chose the outcome. And that's the thing, right? Like we choose hard, or you can choose easy. Do you want to choose negative or positive? Like most of the time I'm like 85 to 90% of the time I'm choosing positive, and I'm choosing easy, and I'm choosing, of course. Like I hit a point, I'm like, of course, the money always shows up all the time. There's just a story that I used to buy into, that making money was hard, or money wouldn't come, or like, no, sure, we had a couple people, we're just waiting on them to pay their bills, and no, look at that. New person, pay in full, right? It just over and over and over again. Right now, I'm in the world of money and you. And that's literally this program's hanging out. It's the secret source code to financial abundance that's been functioning for 5 decades behind the scenes. Huge in Asia, actually. Huge in Asia and Australia. Not so much in the US. Yet all the OGs, everyone that you know in personal development and business development, they're all graduates of this program.
Okay.
So what does that tell you? I'm like, I want to go to the source. So I'm excited about being a part of that world and playing in that game, because it's Robert Kiyosaki and Tony Robbins and Forbes Riley and Jack Canfield and Mark Victor Hansen and Sharon Lechter and Ken Honda and all of these people that everybody knows from all the personal development and business development. They're all graduates of one program. It's wild.
And Stacy, you bring up an
Wild.
interesting point there, that you have discovered something that is the secret sauce, and it's something that you're totally running with. However, we are exposed to junk mail, let's call it junk mail, every time we open up LinkedIn, Facebook, socials, TikTok. There is someone trying to sell us something that is the secret sauce, the thing that you've been missing your entire life. How do we, as sensible humans, filter through the rubbish and find the things that are actually helpful for us?
So you want my real raw full
Stacy, give
authentic
us the
answer?
motorcycle answer.
Yeah.
Motorcycle.
So the motorcycle answer, stay off fucking social media. That's number one.
There it
Don't
is.
watch the fucking news. There you go. So yeah, I don't go on social media. I don't watch the news. And when it comes to some stuff like this, it's the people you trust that are sharing it with you. Someone sees the value and the light in you and is like, ooh, I'm going to gift you with an opportunity to be blessed with this too. Because for almost 50 years, Money and You's been floating through the background, invitation only, graduates inviting people, sharing it with their friends. Like the most successful things can happen behind the scenes, the most impactful things. But that's why I stopped selling and I stopped posting and I stopped doing all the stuff in my business and started focusing on playing on that frequency with those people. And they all started showing up because that's way more fun. It's how I found you guys, how we found each other, right? Because it's just focusing on cool relationships with epic people doing amazing things in the world. And that's way more fun. And I have far more control over the quality of the bandwidth and the nutrition that I'm feeding my soul with the people that I choose, as opposed to what that algorithm tries to show me. I open that one time I open it and there's just some junk. And I'm like, nope. The second I feel some type of way, and it takes like half a second. So I just don't even go on there. I just don't do it.
Best thing we've talked about yet.
Energy management. That
Good.
is an energy leak.
It,
It's a profit
Stacy,
leak.
you're hitting my soul here, because as someone who's been selling for 20 years, this is a quantum shift for me, and it feels good. I don't like going into meetings with agendas, but you know what? As a salesperson, at least I thought I always needed to do, is go with an agenda. Because very first day of sales training 101 at I'm not going to name any companies, but it's if you don't go in with an agenda, you could just literally be a cool dude having a conversation for a while, which would have probably really worked out very well. Like, hey, what are you selling? But hey, you got this is your goal. Here's how many meetings you needed every single week. Here's how many phone calls you're likely need to make for all that. It was very much like, just get that done and you'll be successful. And I've been very guilty even to this day of still thinking like that. So thank you.
You're welcome. Well, why don't we do the pattern interrupt and say, okay, you go into every meeting with an agenda, you just change the agenda,
Exactly.
change the outcome.
Yep.
So the outcome for me now is solve at least one major problem by delivering value, knowing what their big vision or goals are moving forward. And then, ideally, we've got some sort of follow up or something next lined up, another interaction.
So in other words, pour into them and good things will eventually come your way too.
Super quickly, actually. I just ask questions.
Yeah.
Right? Not for the purpose of a sale, but ask questions to be of service. And I will show up and I will solve a problem. And it's not from the place of scarcity. I'm not functioning from scarcity at all.
Mm.
It's not about me having to throttle. I got to sell, not solve a problem.
Right.
No.
You don't look, sorry to cut you off, but you don't look at the back of you don't look at the end of your week being like, man, I had 10 meetings and none of them closed. And now I have to analyze this. Like, no, those are relationships that you're building and building upon for the next time. And who knows what connection that person's going to send you. You're not doing it for that as the agenda, but you're not analyzing it with that type of scope.
No. I did have that conversation with my husband today. I said, no, we do need to make sure we create some structure within our pipeline so we can keep track of where the relationships are coming from and where they end up going, because data and analytics and understanding our value sources, it basically our value relationships, we can nurture those people. So the lady that I enrolled today, she and I chatted as an intro. Somebody referred her to me back in December and we connected and we just had, again, same kind of conversations I had with you guys when we first connected. Like, I'm just like getting to know you and learning about your business and we're learning about each other. Awesome. Super cool. And then we left it And then she reached out and she still had the link to book time on my calendar, and she just booked time and she's like, okay, so all this has happened and blah, 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 blah. So I'm ready to go. Let's get started. Send me the agreement, send me the invoice. Cool. So we just got to hang out and reconnect for an hour and book some time, and she's a new client.
Right. And price probably never even came up originally.
No, I just shared it on the previous call because there was some context. And I'm one of those weird people who's like, just for context and transparency, here's what most of our clients, pick this option if that's the lane you're interested in. Cause she had asked some questions and I'm just super transparent with people. So I'm like, they can sit on it. So then they come, there's no negotiating. Why argue with people about price when you're confident and clear with it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And they
Crazy.
see the value. And
Yeah,
actually,
they already know the
my,
value because I gave her value. I solved a problem. Like, the value. I'm like, okay, holy shit. Crazy.
yeah, my experience working with you and having calls for the last few months has been, there's never been talk about sales. It's just been questions about where are you at and how can you support me, like,
Yeah.
and that's, so that may not close a sale today, but you've planted something in that person's mind that they know when they're ready, you're the person they're going to contact and book that call with. So
Mm-hmm.
that, I think it's a softer but much more effective way, especially now because people are so exposed to the cold calls and the hard sells and the closing questions, things like that. Like, we're not stupid, So
But do
people
you
are,
want to do business like it's 2015 or do you want to do business like it's 2030?
yeah, exactly.
Right? If we are focusing truly on building a relationship continuity engine, which is what I call it in my Inflow OS, my 9-chamber operating
Writing that
system.
down.
The relationship, thank you guys are taking notes. I feel like I'm delivering value. Thank you.
And not only
But
us.
the relationship continuity engine is about building community. It's about being relationship first, right? Relational, not transactional. And when you focus on relationship being the outcome and really getting people in your world connected to something bigger, yeah, it can be a little bit slower to them enrolling if we're really just talking about like significantly higher tier stuff. However, these are sticky relationships because it's not just clients. These are the people where, we end up reciprocating, we go to events, like, you're playing with these amazing people doing really cool stuff that there's layers and layers and layers to the opportunity that happens, and everybody's rising together. And it's just a completely different way to do business. And it's the way the people at the top who are having fun and playing with billions and doing the amazing, fulfilling, impactful stuff, that's the game they're playing. So why wait to get there to play the game? Play the game now. So we focus on the relationships and building community with a bigger purpose, message, mission, movement. It doesn't matter if you have a physical community or not, but you make them a part of something bigger and you show up in that way, building relationship and rapport right out of the gates, not wanting anything, not going, "Huh," right? Of like, buy my shit or let me over deliver value rather than proving my confidence and my clarity and only presenting what you need when you need it. Right? There's a big difference too. You can tell the people who are insecure, so I'm gonna vomit all my stuff on you, right? And overgive and over deliver.
Mhm.
It's a very different. In the world of AI can get you 90% of the way there. But what people are paying for is the lived experience, the wisdom that I can give you to say, well, here's what I'll tell you. And this is what I've learned, and this is what I've earned, and this is what I've gleaned from my mentors and my coaches and in the experiences that I've had in this lifetime of business and living and all the things. That's what people invest in. The wisdom to say, oh, I don't have to make the mistakes. Or someone can show me the easy way to get there. Or someone can show me that I can understand myself better or be better as a business owner, better with my body, better with whatever it is. That's the
And
magic.
Stacy, before we started today, you talked a little about the different steps that people enter a cooperation with you, your system is not sequential. People can
Yeah.
choose a little bit of this, a little bit of that, whatever their need is. Can you just talk us a little bit through
All
that
right.
system? Just explain how
Yeah.
that works, because we've talked a lot today about mindset and
Yeah.
high performance.
We're getting tactical now. Yeah, we're getting tactical.
Yeah.
All right. I got it. I got it. So, number one, I have grown out of linear business. The linear business model is dead. That's 2015, before 2015. If we're talking funnels and offer stacks and value ladders, it's linear, it's one directional. People are burned out on it. They know the game. You guys were just talking about it, right? You know the sales and the cold calls and the emails and the SOS sequences and all the stuff. I love Russell Brunson and all of the people who taught those strategies. They were amazing. However, there's a lot of people that linear business model doesn't work, myself included. I did all the programs and all the things, and I was like, why does this? I can hustle and I can make it happen to a point, but eventually this is out of alignment or integrity with who I am. Why does this not work? So, in always being my first client, I start going down the rabbit hole of trying to understand, why am I different? Why do I do business different? Why is all of this different? And understanding that multi-passionate people, who, that's the expression, that's the doing. The identity of most multi-passionate people is actually being a polymath or a polymathic leader. So it's a multi-dimensional thinker. Your genius spans multiple lanes. So yes, I am a scientist and I paint. And I am a tech nerd and I ride a motorcycle. And like, and I do some dabbling and all these other weird things, right? It's fine. But it's not about being unfocused. It's about you truly have a genuine curiosity across so many lanes that the normal people, the other people, you seem unfocused. And really, the idea of picking one lane or niching is actually like amputating part of your identity. Like, what? That's crazy. So, even approaching niching is different for people like us. So, what I ended up designing is this beautiful 9-chamber offer ecosystem. It is one of the chambers is actually teaching my clients how to build the same thing. And it's a recursive offer ecosystem. So people can basically do the assessment, see exactly what their key gap is. The assessment will say, okay, based on your real issues here, we recommend this chamber and this chamber. And they don't have to be in any particular order. Like, yes, there's a sequence, but when you're going through business, you don't always have to go to the beginning and work on your identity or work on your brand. You might have an offer problem. You might have a systems problem. You might have a messaging problem. It's just figuring out exactly where the stuck point is. And then when you solve the problem, you continue moving forward and success is happening. And okay, cool. New level. So guess what? Now we got to go back and do some of that work. So then you recognize, and I have completely agentified the entire ecosystem, and every chamber is based on an outcome. So it's not about coaching, it's not about fluff. This is process and protocol to have predictable outcomes in every single spot. And it's only what you need when you need it. The magic here, it's not linear, which means you get to choose your journey. So anyone coming into your ecosystem, because it's a relationship continuity engine, gets to discover via invitation and self-discovery all of these other amazing things rather than you sell, sell, sell. Because sales means you go down to their level to try to sell versus you stay up here and invite them up to the next version of themselves, because that's what it's about. Not you, it's about them.
So who's coming to you for the services? Are these solopreneurs that have no team yet? They have small teams that they're stuck. Are they starting up a business and they want to build a structure? Like, what's your average customer though? Because it sounds to me as I'm trying
Are
to.
you trying to decide on the niche?
No, not at all. Yeah, good point. Good point. You probably have a collection of all. You're not.
Who's your niche, Stacy? Well, my niche is the multi-passionate polymath. Here's the thing. The niche is the identity, not the stage of business. The way I design the ecosystem is it serves someone starting out as well as it serves the person 5 decades deep. And 9 figures of asset, or more. Like, it does not matter. That's how beautifully I designed the ecosystem so that truly you're just cycling through. Because what do? We grow past the coach, we grow past the program, we do the work, we hit the next level. Then eventually we're like, man, you're back at somebody for doing new level of brand or mindset or leadership so we're going in these cycles. But why do it in this piecemeal way? Compartmentalized work creates compartmentalized results. If you can have one holistic ecosystem that's helping you always look at the big vision, which is not the big vision business goal, it's the vision of the lifestyle that you're building and who you desire to be at the end of it. And we're working backwards from that. So if you get to hang out in one place and always have value covering every piece and challenging and helping you grow and accelerate quickly, like, why not? Seems easy. And nobody else is doing it. That's what's revolutionary. I'm like, I've looked everywhere for it and nobody else has it. I'm like, okay, cool. I'll be that person. $1 billion exit.
I love it.
Yeah. So does that
So,
help? It's the who, not the.
yeah, I like how you said you're not looking at the stage, you're looking at the identity of the person.
Yeah. And I think
that's
that's where a lot of people lazy niche. Well, I just do this industry. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, at the beginning, before we started, I mentioned something about what I'm doing because it is my niche. And you said, yeah, that's really, really wonderful. However, and then you helped to open and expand my mind.
Well, yeah,
Uh,
only because you were saying, like, I don't know if I would be comfortable providing that same guidance to someone in a different industry. But that's why I said, however,
yeah, I like it.
it's who you're being in the room,
Yeah,
not what you've done. So,
I like it.
right. I
Thank
mean,
you.
I'm in those rooms. I could all day let my little impostery me. Like, imposter syndrome is just, it's literally a lie we tell ourselves. I think everyone wants to be on the imposter syndrome train because it's just like the hot new thing. Everyone has imposter syndrome. No, you're just uncomfortable because you're bold enough to take actions that you've never done before.
Mm.
And there's this crazy little part of ourselves that's very obvious right now that says, I'm not sure I think or believe I match the actions, but I'm doing it anyway. So all you did was highlight a gap and simplify the solution because it's just what I'm thinking and believing about myself in the moment, but you know how to fix it. We don't even have to assign the meaning of imposter syndrome. We just say, shit, I'm doing that much big stuff that I got parts of me haven't caught up yet. That's awesome.
And then you go eat,
Like, I'm
That
moving
is so
that
true.
fast.
and then you go,
And then you go eat
Yeah.
gelato because you're like, yes, I am totally feeding my inner fat kid right now because my little Stacy's so happy.
I heard an interesting explanation about how as we age, we tend to identify ourselves with the person that we are now at this age. So if you're 38 years old, then you believe I'm a 38-year-old, this is how I behave. But the explanation was that we were once a 10-year-old's child.
Yeah.
We were once a 21-year-old's young adult. And each of those people at different stages, they had their own experiences. At 21 years old, we're like studying at university or we're partying or whatever. We were that person, but we still are that person. We still are the 10-year-old. We still are the 21-year-old. We're just at a different time. So sometimes people think they need to compress or push down the parts of them. I shouldn't behave like that because I'm supposed to be an adult now. What's your take on that?
I am in a season where I've deeply recognized how much of my life I put myself in other people's box, and especially in editing and shrinking myself in order to make others comfortable.
can you give some examples?
And that season massively ended even in building the business the way that I did. It's all functioning on building a community of people whose identities are similar to my own. in this way where we get to hang out with each other and actually get to relax into full expression of ourselves. No shrinking, no editing, no slowing down for the people who can't keep up. We get to be in rooms with people who can think multidimensionally, and we can have the conversations, and we can accelerate even faster and do all of the fun stuff and have our inner children just busting out and being super playful, and like there's zero judgment because we get to be the full expression of who we are. Because almost our entire lives as the black sheep, the rebel, the rule breaker, the disruptor, the problem child, whatever, the neurodivergent that we've all been, we had to shrink something to fit in. And so I am simply in a season of putting myself in places where I am allowed to be that full expression. In fact, because we have a similar mentor, one of those values, in fact, it's my number one value that I speak to every day, is that anytime there's air in my lungs or there's water in the ocean, I experience the fullest expression of me
Hmm.
because I spent a lifetime shrinking.
Yeah. I'm struggling with examples of that in my life. Would you be willing to share one of yours?
Sure, sure. Well, I would say, a lot of it can be conversations, right? If you ever get frustrated with conversations, if you ever actually are finding a slower conversation hard and start jumping in and just finishing somebody's sentence for them, or you're just finishing it because you already know what they're going to say and you're just like, okay, and blah, blah, blah. And then you move on, right? Because you're just moving so fast. Or like the ideas are coming in business and your team always feels like they're just trying to keep up, never understanding where are things going. They're just constantly playing catch up. Systems can do the same thing. That's why I ended up really shifting my approach to building systems and automations, was because I was like, ecosystems, the identity of the polymath is evolving so fast that the ecosystem cannot keep up. So if we don't build for where we're going and are constantly solving for now, you'll always be having the structure that's falling apart. It's just really no infrastructure.
So
So does that
you
help?
struggle with standard operating procedures because of the type of person that you are, yet you have specialized in.
You're successful when you have them, but they need to be designed properly. Yeah. Yeah, you need the structure. It's the right type of structure. It is structure that actually, like I said, it's
Allows you to move.
the riverbanks. It's the riverbanks to this beautiful visionary creative flow. Otherwise, or I always say, I become people's bumpers on their bowling lane so they can move the vision forward well. So now it's fun playing at levels where I'm working with people who are like, nope, I'm doing a very, very large 9-figure exit in 4 years, and I'm building the infrastructure for them to do that and sell it and get that number. And it's fun. It's so fun because I'm like, oh, cool. We know the vision we're building for, and here we go. Easy. Right. So, but a lot of the shrinking too is in social situations, where there's just like that emotional or energetic misalignment where I'm like, ugh, I got to edit myself down to like perform or play a role because this is not my crowd or not my
Mm,
people. Or if you do bring in more of the full expression of yourself, they're like, those times when you've had to
I know
shrink,
what you mean.
or you're too big or you're too much or you're too loud or you're too smart or you're too skilled or you're too whatever, to anything. And I mean, shit, a lot of us, for me, I got it from family. As a kid,
Got it.
it was always learning to shrink because being the full expression of yourself was not okay.
When Chuck and I pardon me, when Chuck and I first started the podcast, we saw it as a platform for us to share our experience and wisdom and be able to help people. But over time, we've learnt that there is so much for us to learn as well. And we embrace every opportunity to be able to have amazing guests like yourself on that has your own, who have your own lived experience that we also are learning from.
Mm-hmm.
So what started off as a personal project to share our wisdom with the world has now become the most amazing learning platform for us to fast track our growth as well. And it has helped us in incredible ways, personally and professionally, by being able to meet people like you.
Right? It's so fun. Thank you. I'm honored to be a guest and have this amazing conversation with you guys. Like, this is what's so fun when we get to just be around cool people and be radically authentic and have real conversations. And it's all growth edges for all of us because it's just this game of life we get to play. And some of us choose to win and make it fun and let it be easy, and others just pick a different way to play the game. You know,
Yep. But
you get to choose.
starting today, you can subscribe for $19.99 a month. I'm just kidding.
To my Substack, which is
I
not
was I
monetized.
was turning on the sales agenda,
I know.
being
And it's
unauthentic.
slices and dices and juliennes.
No, but these
Wait, there's more.
yeah, stick around. You got this far. You're serious.
After the break, we'll show you the bonus.
Yeah. Yeah.
The bonus is it can be that fun
Mm,
and you can let it be that easy.
yeah. And we would normally sell this for $1,400. And wouldn't that, like, if you made 10,000 from 1,400, wouldn't that also be make a lot of sense? But because I want everyone to have it, I'll sell it for $47.
And that's why this podcast is free.
How many times you
For
guys click on
now.
that?
For now. Well, see, that's
Yeah.
where the subscription comes in for all of the bonus assets, the behind the scenes, the
Yeah.
unedited, the resources, the members portal, because that's part of the relationship continuity engine,
Mhm.
not for the purpose of monetization, but for the purpose of the self selection of the audience, for them saying, I'm worth investing in because I see the value in this experience. So it's actually about them. So I tell people all the time, if you're not monetizing your community, it's actually a disservice to them. And I'm not saying it's got to be crazy, crazy, crazy expensive, but it's got to be done right, not just for the purpose of monetizing your community and not deliver value, but it's all about that energy exchange. And it helps them step up to their next higher self. So I know we did go long, huh?
Yeah, yeah. Just before we go ahead, we are going to put links to Stacy's website and also the TED Talk link where
Yeah, boost
Stacy.
those numbers, people.
Yeah. We're going to add those links in the bottom. Don't forget to subscribe to the Masters of Wellness channel wherever you are watching or listening to it right now. Write a comment, ask some questions. Stacy is happy to reply in her free time. And please share our episode and this episode with at least one person who you believe can benefit from some of the amazing things we've talked about today. So, Stacy, just some quick round questions, 20-second answers, okay?
Okay.
What is one belief about success that you had to unlearn?
Yeah, that success is hard. It's only as hard as you
Hmm,
make it. It's a
nice.
choice. So I think we get to just tie the bow on that thread today.
Cool. Next question. What's a daily non-negotiable that protects your flow?
Bath. I take a bath every day.
Epsom salt.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Epsom salts, aromatherapy. There's a whole thing, like a little ceremony around it. And I do it every evening, just about, not tonight because we had the interview tonight. So, but almost every evening, I'll soak in the tub for about an hour. And it's amazing the insights that come. It's amazing just what water does. It's phenomenal. And then my husband ended up making it a bit of his caretaking ritual as well. So he'll hit a point where he's like, okay, I'm starting your bath. And then he goes and puts in the salts and the aromas. And so it's turned into a little ritual for both of us.
That's a good husband that knows what your need is. You know, most husbands would think of something different, but he gets it. So you guys are super strong. Very happy to hear that.
Yeah, yeah. It definitely is. It's funny how some of those things evolve in long-term relationships. I mean, we'd been together for 25 years. So
Or he's trying to say,
That is amazing.
time for a bath.
yeah, stink. There you go. That too. Or the wrong personality
Okay.
is showing up, so you need to like
Look
Calgon
at
that shit
that.
away, you know?
Okay. Another question. What's one boundary you wish you had set 10 years earlier?
No disrespect,
To yourself.
period. The boundary of no disrespect is the one boundary I think everyone should have as like the gatekeeper to their bubble. Like if you say, okay, if anybody coming into my little bubble honors my boundary of no disrespect, which is not about controlling them, it's about saying, I know what this minimum standard is. And if anyone comes in with any energy of disrespect, I know how I choose to respond to that. And most importantly, those boundaries apply to self first. So we cannot have others treat us with a boundary that we do not honor ourselves. So I always say when people are like, oh my God, I'm getting all these cancellations or no shows or whatever, I will look at them and say, where are you disrespecting your time? And that is the way that I approach it. Anytime I see a challenge, I look at it and flip it as a mirror to say, okay, where am I doing this for myself? So no disrespect.
Awesome. One more question from me. What is one sentence you want listeners to remember?
Well, we already used the one I usually use, like the closeout, like the if I told my younger self, it's only as hard as you make it. Right. But every other saying I have is some other quip or quibble that ultimately goes to that same thing. That, you know, it's a choice. Every moment it's a choice. Do you choose easy or you choose hard? Like you have that much power. And the only thing you can control in the world is the most amazing thing that you can control in the world, and that's you.
I'm choosing to let success in everything that I do from here on out be easy. And I'm choosing to throw away the old Chuck that is looking at the end of the week, the end of the month, the end of the year, like every single person is a sales opportunity, because that's what's been entrenched in my brain for so long, and just be me, because that sounds more fun.
It's way more fun.
And it is going to be more fun. And it's also a lot less stressful, right? Like, it's interesting how that's the part where I've never consciously thought that I'm still doing those things, or that that's not even something I should be doing. You know, uh, 20 years ago when I got into a career outside of college, man, like, not to make this a long-winded with my biggest takeaway, but everyone my whole life said, Chuck, you're going to be a salesman. Chuck, you're going to be a salesman. Chuck, you're going to be a salesman. You're such a salesman. You needed to hear it from my mom. I'd hear it from my dad. I'd hear it from my sister, my grandparents. And I always look at that. Like, I remember being like 12 years old, looking at them being like, that's kind of insulting, because it was a gift of gab. And of course, naturally, I'm like, all right, they're right. This is a scale. This is a skill set. I might as well get into sales. How do you become successful in sales? Dale Carnegie and all the books. You know, it's a numbers game. And at the end of the day, there's partly truth to that, but it's really just relationships. And I've lost touch with that. So thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, nobody likes being transactional at the end of the day. And I recognize that I had gotten into that trap where I had become very transactional. I was always chasing the sale, and even off hours with just friends. They were like, I feel like she was selling to me. And that was a big wake up call a couple years ago for me too, because I'd gotten very transactional. And that was a defense mechanism to high levels of stress. But that authentic version of you at 12 years old or 8 years old as the sales was simply you being so authentic. You were selling them into something by you being you, not trying to make a sale.
Exactly.
So big wins. Yeah. And then the more relational we are, right? I mean, it's so true that the network is the net worth.
Pour into others. All I need to focus on, not the numbers.
Yeah. Another way to look at what they were saying to you, Chuck, is you're a great communicator and a great relationship builder. Sometimes people say things that sound a certain way, but the meaning underneath, especially from people you love, is probably very different to what we perceive. And from the time I've known you, actually today was a great example. You called us earlier on to talk about the podcast today and the questions we're going to ask Stacy, so on, so on. And then Livia jumps on the phone and you're like, hey, girl. You immediately know how to adapt to the situation and the person, which is really, really funny.
I don't even know if she likes being talked to like that, but that's just what comes out when I talk to people.
Yeah. She's super
What's up,
happy. Yeah,
girl?
she really enjoys it. Yeah. Yeah. Stacy, the biggest thing that I took away from today is that the limiting self-belief we may be holding can be very quickly broken with the word however. Humans generally are lazy. Like the human body is a living organism that tries to use the least amount of energy to get the required result. So when we go to the gym and we do strength training, we're actually doing something against what nature wants. Nature doesn't want us to go and lift heavy things. It wants us to lift the least amount of weight as possible. So by lifting weight, we are breaking the pattern and doing something that causes a physiological response in our body. And the same thing happens with our minds. Our minds, generally, humans' minds is a little bit lazy and doesn't want to overthink and doesn't want to expend energy because it requires a lot of energy to think and process. So we need to push those heavy things with our minds to be able to get that mental response as well and to be able to grow that way. So as well as growing our body stronger physically and our cardiovascular fitness and our heart and the muscles and bones, all of those things require effort and energy that our body does not really like. Likewise with our minds. By stretching our minds, we are pushing it to become stronger and more fit. Thank you so much for all of our loyal listeners and followers and people who like and share. It helps. Thank you, Stacy. Thank you, Brother Chuck. And we'll see you guys next time.